My son-in-law slapped an envelope of cash on my table and said, "Here's $16,000, Ma. Go die somewhere cheap." So I started laughing because I knew what was buried under that ranch was worth a whole lot more than $3 million, and it was about to send some very important people to prison. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Now, sit down, honey, because Grandma's got a story that'll curl your toes. My name is Geraldine Clark, but everyone in Red Ridge just calls me Geri. I'm 70 years old. I've got more gray hair than sense, according to my daughter. And until last week, I owned a 2,000-acre ranch in West Texas. Or at least I thought I did. It was a Thursday morning. I was in my kitchen doing my crossword and burning my toast like I always do, when the side door flew open without so much as a knock. In strutted my son-in-law, Travis, like he paid the mortgage, which he did not. Slick hair, shiny boots, cologne so strong it could stun cattle. He dropped an overstuffed envelope on my table. "Morning, Ma." I didn't look up. "9 letters, start with S," I muttered at my puzzle. "Means thinks he's smarter than he is." He pulled out a chair and sat without being invited. "We need to talk." "About my crossword? Because I've already got self-important." "The ranch," he said. "It's sold. Here's your cut." I stared at the envelope like it was a dead mouse. "Sold," I repeated. "My ranch." "Our ranch now," he corrected, puffing out his chest. "Sagebrush Ridge. We got $3.2 million for it. After fees and commissions, that's $16,000 for you. More than enough to get you a little apartment in town, maybe one of those active senior places. Bingo, chair yoga, people your own age. You're welcome." I opened the envelope. $16,000 in thick rubber-banded stacks. For a ranch my husband and I had spent 40 years paying off. For the place where we raised our boy, where my husband died, where every fence post and mesquite bush had a memory attached. I should have cried. Instead, I laughed. I laughed so hard I had to hold on to the table. Tears ran down my cheeks. Travis went beet red. "What's so funny?" he snapped. "Oh, Travis," I wheezed, "you really think you just sold my ranch?" "It's done," he said, jaw clenching. "Paper signed. Your daughter's got power of attorney. You don't remember? After your little spell last year, doctor said you shouldn't be dealing with big decisions anymore." "Spell?" I asked sweetly. "You mean the afternoon I fainted because someone mixed up my blood pressure pills?" His eyes flickered. Good. He remembered that as well as I did. "Point is," he continued, "it's over. Summit Red Energy wired the money. Closing's next week. You've got a month to be out. And Ma," he leaned in, his cologne burning my eyes, "don't make this harder than it has to be. Take the cash, sign whatever paperwork they send over, and go. I don't know," he shrugged, "go die somewhere else." That's when I stopped laughing. Not because of what he said, I've heard worse from middle schoolers, but because I suddenly understood just how deep in the quicksand my own child had stepped. Travis thought he'd pulled off the heist of the century. He didn't know he'd just sold land he didn't legally own, and land sitting on a secret my late husband had buried there with his own 2 hands. Let me back up a bit. My husband, Sam Clark, wasn't just a rancher. Before we bought Sagebrush Ridge, Sam worked as a field geologist for an oil company. He knew rocks like I know recipes. When we first looked at the land, he was more interested in the creek bed than the house. There was this patch on the north rim, near an old cottonwood tree.
He picked up a chunk of rock, whistled low, and said, "Geri, this land's worth a whole lot more than the asking price, and not because of the grass." A few months later, right after we signed the deed, Sam took me out to that cottonwood. He handed me a folded piece of paper, brown from being handled. "If men in suits ever start sniffing around here," he said, "you dig where this map says. Don't do it before. Don't tell anyone, not even Rachel." Rachel is my daughter. Back then she was 16, sweet as peach pie, always talking about getting out of this dusty town. I slid the map into the back of our wedding photo, like Sam told me, and honestly, I forgot about it. Raising a kid, running cattle, paying bills, that'll do that to you. Years later, Sam got sick. Cancer stole him slow and mean. On one of his good days, he reached for my hand. "Remember the map," he whispered. "If anyone ever tries to take this ranch, you use what's buried here." I asked if it was oil. I knew enough to know people killed for oil. He chuckled, then coughed. "Better, leverage." Then he was gone. For 5 years after he died, nothing much happened. I ran the ranch. Rachel and Travis visited when they needed money. Life rolled on until my pills got mixed up mysteriously. I blacked out in the kitchen and woke up in the hospital with Rachel standing over me, wringing her hands. "Mom, the doctor says you should let us help with your finances. Just some papers, nothing big." I told her we'd talk later. We never did, or so I thought. Turns out they talked without me. After Travis left my kitchen that morning, I brewed a fresh pot of coffee and called Nolan Price, the lawyer who did wills and divorces for half of Red Ridge. "Nolan," I said, "my daughter just sold my ranch out from under me. I need help." His secretary squeezed me in for that afternoon. Nolan's office smelled like stale coffee and old carpet. Certificates on the wall, family photo on the desk, the whole "trust me, I'm a professional" package. He shuffled through the papers Travis had left in the envelope. Sale contract, copy of a power of attorney, some medical notes I'd never seen before. "Well, Mrs. Clark," he said finally, "if this power of attorney is valid, and it appears to be, your daughter had the legal right to sign on your behalf." "I never signed a power of attorney," I said, "and those medical notes are pure fiction. I passed that mental test with flying colors." He gave me the gentle look people reserve for children and old ladies. "You might not remember." I leaned forward. "Nolan, I can still recite the periodic table from Sam's geology cheat sheets. I remember every student I taught in 35 years of being a school librarian. I can tell you what pie I baked for the 4th of July in 1993. I would remember signing away my life." He winced. "Even so, proving fraud would be difficult. Do you really want to drag your own daughter into court at your age?" I stood up, sliding the papers back into my purse. "At my age, Nolan, I don't have time for cowards." His mouth dropped open. I walked out. In the parking lot, I sat in my truck and called the one person I knew wouldn't pat me on the head and tell me to accept it. Mabel Ruiz, my neighbor and best friend, who also used to be the county clerk. "Mabel," I said, "I need the meanest elder law attorney you can think of." She didn't even hesitate. "Anna Reyes moved here from Dallas 3 years ago, put 2 nursing homes and a crooked nephew out of business so far. I'll text you her number." Anna's office was small but sharp. No dusty law books, just a big screen on the wall, a fern that hadn't yet given up, and a receptionist who could probably kill a man with a stapler. Anna herself looked about 50, with short black hair, silver hoops, and eyes that saw straight through people. "Mrs. Clark," she said, shaking my hand, "Mabel warned me you were trouble." "Only for people who deserve it." We sat, and I slid the mountain of papers across her desk. She read faster than I could talk. "The sale contract's real," she murmured. "Summit Ridge Energy paid $3.2 million into escrow, but this power of attorney," she tapped the document, "is garbage," I suggested. "It's interesting," she said. "The signature looks like yours, but the notary stamp belongs to a guy who lost his license 2 years ago for notarizing documents without the signer present. So it's garbage," I repeated. "Potentially," she nodded. "Also, the medical evaluation is from a doctor who doesn't list you as a patient. I can get this thrown out, but that won't automatically reverse the sale. The buyer could claim they acted in good faith. And my sweet child walks away with $3 million of my money," I said. Anna slid another page toward me. "Unless this is true." It was a copy of the deed. At the bottom, in small print I'd never bothered to read, was a line: "Surface rights conveyed. Mineral and subsurface water rights excluded per Clark Family Trust. Recorded 1991. I blinked. Sam did that? "Looks like your husband was smarter than all of us. Someone, probably Sam, created a trust that split the ranch in two, legally speaking. Whoever bought the property only owns the surface. They don't own what's under it." "And what's under it," I whispered, thinking of the map behind my wedding photo, "is why Summit Ridge wanted it in the first place." Anna sat back. "Tell me everything, Mrs. Clark, from the beginning. Leave nothing out, even the parts that sound crazy." So I did. I told her about Sam's years as a geologist, about the strange rock he'd found near the cottonwood, about the map, about his deathbed warning. She listened without interrupting, then steepled her fingers. "Okay," she said, "here's twist number 1, and I need you to take a breath before I say it." "I'm breathing," I lied. "If what Sam suspected is true," she continued, "your land sits on either a major resource, gas, helium, rare earth minerals, or a major problem, toxic waste, illegal dumping, something Summit Ridge desperately wants to control." I swallowed, "and my map buried something that proves it." "Probably," she said, "which means 2 things. 1, your son-in-law just sold Summit Ridge a very expensive lawsuit. 2, they're not going to take this lying down." "Good," I said. "I wasn't planning to either." That night I went home, took down my wedding photo, and slid my fingers along the cardboard backing until I felt the brittle edge of folded paper. The map was still there. Sam's handwriting, neat as always. North Rim, big cottonwood. From trunk, 18 steps east, 7 south, 2 feet deep. Only dig if forced. Well, I'd say being evicted with 16 grand qualified as forced. I drove up to the North Rim at dawn, before the summer sun turned the world into a frying pan. The cottonwood stood just like I remembered, branches rattling in the wind. I counted out 18 steps east, 7 south, and started digging with the little army shovel we used for breaking ice in winter. 2 feet down, metal clinked against metal. I unearthed a military ammo box, rusted on the outside, still solid. Inside, plastic-wrapped bundles of paper, a rugged old hard drive, and a thumb drive taped to the lid. On top, a note in Sam's handwriting. If you're reading this, Geri, someone got greedy. Give this to someone who deals with greed for a living. Love, Sam. I sat in the dirt and cried for the first time since he died. Then I drove back to town and laid that ammo box on Anna's desk. She and her tech guy went through it like kids at Christmas. What Sam had buried wasn't oil maps of mineral rights, it was proof. Proof that Summit Ridge's parent company had been illegally injecting toxic wastewater under neighboring ranches for years. Proof of contaminated wells, falsified environmental reports, bribes paid to inspectors. Sam hadn't discovered something valuable under our land. He'd discovered something criminal. And he turned our ranch into the perfect bargaining chip. Mrs. Clark, Anna said, voice low and fierce, this evidence is enough to blow Summit Ridge to pieces. Criminal charges, civil suits, class action. They must have realized Sam was on to them and had been trying to buy this land quiet ever since. And Travis just sold it to him, I said. Anna nodded. Using fake authority, which in the eyes of the law makes him and Rachel part of the conspiracy if they knew what Summit Ridge was doing. My stomach twisted. Rachel didn't know about the toxins, I said automatically. My girl might be selfish, but she's not evil. Anna's eyes softened. Maybe not, but she knew she was selling something that wasn't truly hers. She pushed a legal pad toward me. We're going to do 3 things, she said. First, file to void the power of attorney. Second, quietly contact the State Environmental Task Force and show them what Sam collected. Third, she smiled like a wolf. We're going to let Summit Ridge, Travis, and Rachel hang themselves with their own greed. Of course, bad news travels faster than good. By the time I got home, Rachel's car was already in my driveway. She rushed me on the porch, eyes red, hair messy, like she'd been crying or practicing for it. "Mom," she cried, "Travis told me you're trying to undo the sale. You can't do that." "I can't?" I asked. "Or you don't want me to?" She grabbed my hands. "Mom, listen. Summit Ridge is giving you security. That ranch is old. You're alone out there. Remember when you wandered off during the house fire last year?" I frowned. "You mean when I went to get the fire extinguisher from the barn while Travis stood in the yard filming for insurance?" Her smile faltered. "You're not remembering things right, Mom. Doctors say you have mild cognitive decline." "Which doctor?" I asked. "The one Travis took you to." "That would be the appointment you canceled because the twins had soccer," I said. "I remember because I sat in the waiting room for 40 minutes while they tried to figure out why I was there." She blinked. "You're confused." "Rachel," I said softly, "I raised you. I taught you how to ride a horse and how to spot a liar. Don't try to gaslight me in my own kitchen." She flinched. "Mom, we only did this because we're drowning. Travis's business is failing. We have the mortgage, the kids' braces, college. We needed the money. You don't even use half that land." Ah, the heart of it. "You'd rather I gave you the ranch outright?" I asked. She swallowed. "It would help." I thought of the ammo box, of Sam's note, of the poisoned wells on our neighbor's land, of Summit Ridge pumping toxins into the earth while people like us drank from it. "No," I said simply. Her eyes filled with tears. "You're choosing a pile of dirt over your own daughter?" I'm choosing what's right over what's easy, I said. If I sign that sale, I'm helping Summit Ridge cover up crimes that have hurt this whole county. I won't do it. Her tears dried up quick. Then you give me no choice, she said quietly. About what? Travis says if you keep this up, we'll have to get you declared incompetent for your own safety. There it was. I smiled. Well, I guess we'll all find out just how competent I am.
I wasn't entirely alone in that house. My eldest grandson, Eli, was 16, quiet kid, better with engines than people, with Sam's same steady eyes. He'd been helping me around the ranch all summer. That night, he knocked on my bedroom door. "Grandma? Come in, sugar." He sat on the edge of the bed, chewing his lip. "I heard Mom and Dad fighting," he said, "about you, about the ranch. Dad said something about if she doesn't sign, we're screwed, and Mom said maybe we should have told her why Summit Ridge wanted that land." I raised an eyebrow. "And did they say why?" "No, but I might have seen something." He pulled out his phone and showed me a grainy photo. It was Travis out by the back fence 3 nights ago, shaking hands with a man in a suit I didn't recognize. Behind them, a black SUV with Summit Ridge's logo. "Why'd you take that?" I asked. Eli shrugged. "Travis told me not to worry about some inspection, but the guy kept looking at the ground near the north rim like he was measuring it. Dad told him, 'We'll get rid of the old lady quick, don't worry.' I didn't like it." I put my hand over Eli's. "You did good, kiddo." He ducked his head, ears flushing pink. "Grandma, am I a bad person if I say I don't want them to get away with this?" "Then we're both bad, because I don't either." Twist number 2, I wasn't fighting alone anymore. Anna almost purred when she saw Eli's photo. "Perfect," she said. "We've got forged documents, attempted gaslighting, and secret meetings with a company under criminal investigation. All we need now is proof they know what Summit Ridge did and are willing to help cover it up." "And how do we get that?" I asked. She smiled a shark smile. "We invite them to an apology." The plan went like this. I'd call Rachel and Travis, tell them I'd reconsidered. I'd say I didn't care about the land anymore. I just wanted peace. I'd invite them to the ranch for a signing dinner. Anna would be in the next room with Detective Marsh from the State Environmental Task Force, plus a technician to record everything. The documents I'd sign were actually revocations, canceling the power of attorney, revoking any authority they had, and triggering a clause Sam had placed in our will. If any descendant attempts to have Geraldine declared incompetent for financial gain, their inheritance passes directly to their children. Sam always did have a flair for drama. Meanwhile, Summit Ridge would think we were just closing the loop. Travis had bragged to them that he could handle the old lady. They'd sent word through their lawyer that if I signed a ratification of the sale and a gag order, they'd throw in an extra $200,000 for my trouble. "I assume you're not actually going to sign that?" I now asked. "Of course not," I said. "But they don't need to know that until dessert." Travis arrived in a blazer that still had the tag thread on the sleeve. Rachel wore a dress I'd never seen, probably bought with the consultation fee they'd already squeezed from Summit Ridge. "Mom," she said breathlessly, hugging me, "I'm so glad you came to your senses." "Me too," I said. Come in, come in. I made pot roast."
Over dinner, Travis talked loudly about fresh starts and new beginnings, and how relieved I'd be to be free from the burden of land management. Rachel nodded along, clearly rehearsed. After we'd eaten, I cleared my throat. "Well," I said, "how about we get this over with? I don't have all night. Old ladies need their beauty sleep." Travis laughed too loudly. I brought out a neat stack of papers and a pen. Hidden in the base of the pen was a tiny microphone that Anna's tech had given me. "These are from your lawyer?" Rachel asked. "Mm-hmm," I said. "Just a form saying I accept what you did with the ranch and won't cause trouble. You know, like you wanted." Travis skimmed the top page, nodding. "Looks right." Of course it did. Anna had copied their language word for word, then slipped in legal T&T underneath. I poised the pen over the signature line, then paused. "Before I do this," I said, "I need to hear you say something." Travis frowned. "What?" "I want you to tell me, out loud, why you did it." He shifted in his seat. "We just wanted what was best for you." "No," I said calmly, "the truth, for once." He rolled his eyes. "Fine. The ranch is worth more in Summit Ridge's hands than in yours. They needed it. They paid for it. We facilitated the deal. Everybody wins." "Except the people whose wells they poisoned," I said. Rachel stiffened. "Mom, that's just rumors." I slid a photo from the ammo box across the table, a picture of a neighboring rancher's tap water coming out brown. "Rumors don't show up in water tests," I said. "You sold my land to the same company Sam was building a case against when he died. Did you know that?" Rachel stared at the photo, then at me. "Sam never—" "Of course she knew," Travis interrupted impatiently. "Why do you think Summit Ridge paid top dollar? They wanted to clean things up. Right, Rachel?" Her eyes flickered. She knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. "Look," Travis said, leaning forward, voice low. "Summit Ridge has friends in high places. This was going to happen one way or another. We just made sure we got a slice before they took the whole pie. That's just business, Ma." "Business," I repeated. "Forging my signature, lying to doctors, poisoning your neighbors?" Rachel flinched again. "Travis," he waved her off, "do you have any idea how much pressure I'm under? Summit Ridge expects results. Their lawyer made it clear if you don't sign, if you keep making noise, they'll sue. They'll drag your name through the mud, call you crazy, put you in a home." "You mean the Sunrise Memory Care you toured last month? The one where they keep people drugged and forgotten?" Rachel gasped. Did you really think your grandson wouldn't tell me where you dragged him on a little drive?" Travis slammed his palm on the table. "Enough. Just sign the damn papers, Geri. You're not going to win this. These people are bigger than you, bigger than us. You sign, we all walk away rich and quiet. You refuse, and—" he looked at Rachel. "Things get ugly for all of us." I let the silence stretch. Then I smiled. "Oh, Travis," I said softly, "you just confessed to half a dozen crimes into a microphone." His face went slack. From the hallway, Anna stepped into view, followed by Detective Marsh and 2 uniformed officers. "Travis Jones," Detective Marsh said with a voice like gravel, "you're under arrest for forgery, elder financial abuse, and conspiracy to obstruct an environmental investigation." Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. "You have the right to be silent. I suggest you actually use it." They cuffed Travis before he could stand. He sputtered, protesting, trying to blame Rachel, me, Summit Ridge, anyone but himself. Rachel started sobbing. "Anna, what is this? You told us you were just a witness." "I told you I was my client's attorney. I never said I was on your side." They led Travis out. As the door closed, Rachel sank into a chair. "Mom," she choked, "what have you done?" "What I should have done years ago. Drawn a line."
I'd like to tell you that was the end of it, that Travis went off to jail, Rachel learned her lesson, and Summit Ridge slunk away to poison someplace else. Life's rarely that tidy. The day after Travis's arrest, Anna called. "Summit Ridge knows," she said without preamble. "They've filed an emergency motion to enforce the sale and accuse you of sabotaging their business." "Can they do that?" I asked. "They can try," she said. "They're claiming they relied in good faith on the power of attorney. Their lawyers are aggressive." I snorted. "Aggressive is what we called my rooster when he attacked the UPS guy. We ate him." Anna laughed despite herself. "Well, I can't promise we'll get to eat Summit Ridge, but the State Environmental Task Force is already very interested in Sam's evidence. We also have your husband's trust splitting the mineral rights. It's messy, but we have leverage." "Remember what Sam buried," I said. "That evidence isn't just paper, it's people's lives. They can't argue that away." Of course, they tried. The hearing looked like a TV drama. Summit Ridge's attorneys in immaculate suits, our side, me in my good church dress, Anna with her hair in a bun, Detective Marsh in his too-tight tie. Summit Ridge argued that they'd invested millions in preparation, that reversing the sale would devastate their shareholders, that I was being manipulated by outside interests. Anna stood up and told the judge that Summit Ridge had knowingly poisoned wells for profit, tried to silence whistleblowers, and now was using forged paperwork to steal land. Then she dropped the ammo box on the evidence table with a thud that echoed through the courtroom. It took exactly 32 hours after that hearing for the twist I didn't see coming. The Attorney General's office filed criminal charges against Summit Ridge's executives. The judge ordered a temporary halt to all their projects in the state, and the very next day, news helicopters started buzzing over Red Ridge like hornets. "Remember how I told you Sam said the land was worth more than the price tag? Turns out he was right in more ways than one. The geologists who reviewed Sam's old surveys and the state's new tests didn't just find evidence of toxic dumping. They found a massive helium reserve trapped under the North Rim, one of the largest in the region, the kind used in medical imaging machines and high-end tech. And remember that Clark Family Trust Sam set up in 1991? The one nobody, not even I, had paid attention to? He'd done something sneaky. The trust document said, all mineral and subsurface gas rights on Sagebrush Ranch are held in perpetuity for the benefit of the Red Ridge School District. Not for me, not for Rachel, for the kids of this dusty little town. Summit Ridge had tried to buy those rights for themselves. Travis thought he'd help them. In reality, they'd just created a paper trail showing exactly how far they were willing to go to steal resources meant for children. That's why when Travis handed me that envelope and told me to go die somewhere cheap, I laughed, because I knew that ranch wasn't truly mine to lose. Sam had buried its real value under layers of legal paper and literal dirt. Travis hadn't robbed me. He'd robbed every kid who'd ever sat in a Red Ridge classroom. And people tend to get very angry when you steal from children. The next year was a blur of hearings, news stories, and small, satisfying moments. Summit Ridge's CEO resigned to spend more time with his family. He spent most of that time in a courtroom. 3 executives pled guilty to environmental crimes. The state reached a settlement that forced Summit Ridge to pay hundreds of millions into a cleanup and education fund. The Clark Education Trust, yes, they named it after us, now pays for college scholarships, new textbooks, and filters for every well in the county. As for Travis, he took a plea deal. 5 years in prison, mandatory restitution, and a lifetime ban from managing anyone's finances but his own. Rachel? She avoided prison by cooperating. She turned over emails, texts, and recordings from Summit Regis people. She cried on the stand, yes, but she also told the truth. Our relationship is complicated. She lives in a small rental now, works 2 jobs, and sees a therapist. She comes by the ranch, my ranch again, every Sunday for dinner. Sometimes we talk about weather and recipes. Sometimes we talk about choices and consequences. Sometimes we just sit on the porch and watch Eli fix up an old truck while the twins chase chickens. I haven't forgiven her completely. Maybe I never will. But I've seen her scrub the kitchen floor on her knees, apologize to neighbors she once ignored, and tell her kids, my grandkids, that what she did was wrong. That counts for something.
I didn't keep Sagebrush Ridge forever. Once the dust settled, I donated a good chunk of it to the state as a wildlife refuge and research site, with one condition. They build a small education center on the north rim, near the cottonwood where the ammo box once lay. On the wall inside, there's a plaque with Sam's name and the words, "Some things are too important to sell." I kept 100 acres and the house, enough for a kitchen full of grandchildren and a porch swing that creaks just right. Eli decided to study environmental science, full scholarship from the Clark Trust, of course. He says he's going to make sure no one ever poisons our water again. I believe him.
You know, when I started this tale, it sounded like some wild crime drama. And sure, there were greedy corporations, forged capers, midnight digging, and men in suits getting hauled away in handcuffs because of what an old lady's husband buried under her ranch. But here's the twist that matters most. None of this would have happened if I'd done what everyone expected. Take the money, keep quiet, doubt my own memories because younger people told me I was confused. So if you're still listening, and I hope you are, hear this from a grandmother who's seen a thing or two. Just because you're old doesn't mean you're wrong. Just because they say it's for your own good doesn't mean it is. And if something in your gut says, this isn't right, you listen to that voice, no matter how many slick-haired men in suits tell you otherwise. Read every paper, ask every question, keep your maps and your secrets safe until the right person comes along. Because sometimes the thing they think is buried and forgotten, that's the thing that finally brings the whole rotten mess into the light. Thanks for sticking with me, honey. If you've got a story of your own about family, money, or people underestimating you, drop it in the comments. Your voice matters more than you know.